Howdy there, welcome back to Diesel Creek. My name is Matt. Today's project, this beautiful 1971 Ford F250. If you haven't seen the previous videos on this truck, well, I found it sitting in a garage last year where it had been sitting for over 30 years. The last time this truck was inspected was before I was born. Being what it is though, it didn't take a whole lot to get this thing fired back up, and I actually ended up driving it all the way back here to the farm. What makes this truck extra cool to me is that it was bought new from a local Ford dealership here near me, and it's been a one-owner vehicle. I am actually the second owner, which is pretty cool. If that's not cool enough, after speaking with the original owner's son for quite a bit, I found out some history on the truck. They bought it new and used it as a service truck its whole life. They were kind of in the surface mining business, getting aggregate like limestone for construction projects. So they would dig it up and process it and ship it out. As I understand it, this particular truck was their main service truck for many, many years of operation. If you don't know much about service trucks, they can live kind of a rough life, unfortunately. They are meant to carry a lot of weight all the time. Pretty much, it's like having a dump truck with a full load all the time. It never gets unloaded. Consequently, the poor little F250 here has seen some stuff. Now, if you haven't seen the previous videos on this truck, I'll try to leave a link down in the description. They were some good videos, and I suggest you take a gander at them. Now, it's been a service truck thus far in its life, and it's not going to change with me. The service bed that came on it is actually in great shape, and we're going to be putting it back on here eventually. But I took it off to do a little bit of body work. The bottoms of the doors and little other areas were getting pretty crusty here. This is Pennsylvania after all. And if you love something, don't drive it in the winter. In today's video, I want to focus on getting this baby back to road ready. Now, we drove it in here, but it definitely needs a little bit of love. I aim to give the engine a complete tune-up and service. Ultimately, we need to get the service bed put back on this thing and load it up with tools. So let's quit gabbing about it and get to work. Okay, so today my focus is going to be I want to get the bed mounted back on the F250 here. As you saw, I carried it in with Fat Alice because she's got some nice long forks. You want to use something like my skid steer or the forklift or something, it really just doesn't support it very well. So my plan is I want to weld some D-rings onto the floor here. Two reasons. One, of course, just to lash stuff down in the future. You know, when we're hauling something in the bed here, there's no way to hook to anything. So 4 D-rings would be a nice upgrade, but then I also thought that we could use them for moving the bed around here right now, putting it on the truck or whatever. So I have these really nice weld-on type D-rings. Problem is with these particular style, I want to keep them tight up against the wall as much as I can here. This metal on this side is pretty thin, so I want to weld to the floor. And basically there's just no way for me to get in here good and weld those on. Not to mention, I don't know, these D-rings seem a little bit heavier than what I really need. So I ran to the hardware store and bought something a little more along the lines of what I thought I wanted. These are a bigger diameter D-ring, but the size of the actual rod that they're made out of, a little bit smaller. And they have these brackets. They didn't have any weld-on ones, but that's no big deal. I'm just going to cut off the flattened out kind of foot part of it there. We're just going to leave the part that covers up the actual ring, and that'll allow me to get these tighter up against the sides of the box.
All right, that should work perfect. All right, I think the D-rings are done. Well, we're close to getting ready to put the bed back on here, but we need to finish up this exhaust first. We started it in the last video, I believe. Basically, I just stabbed a muffler on here. I got myself a fancy little 90 here. Should be able to work it in like so, and on top of that, the exhaust clamp is also going to double as the mount for us, I believe. Should all work out pretty good. Kind of I've got to embiggen that hole just a little bit so that the stud will go up through. And I think we're going to be pretty well set. Oh yeah, this is working out just too dang good. Yeah, that definitely locked her down there. I just got to grab another nut, throw it on top of there, and we're good to go. There we go. Solid as a rock, Marv. The only thing I'm going to have to pay attention a little bit to is this elbow, the angle I got it set to. I think the projected angle will clear the bottom of the tool body, but you know, if it doesn't, we just got to turn it down a little bit more, not a big deal. All right, our muffler is completely mounted now. She's solid as a rock. Let's see what this thing's going to sound like with some mufflication. Well, with that done, I think we're ready to go ahead and toss that bed on here. Today's episode is another fine example of I desperately need to work on installing my overhead crane. But I think old Forky will get it done for us today. Some people don't even have that much, so I guess I can't complain. All right, well, I think this is gonna work. I've got to move it out of the way of the truck, get it over here, pull the truck forward, spin the entire bed around, or rather than spinning the entire bed around, I might just pick it up from the side. I think I can maybe work the chains like that, might be ideal. Or if I had my crane installed, we could just hook the chains right to the D-rings, pick this thing up and put it wherever we wanted in the shop without having to even touch a forklift, which would be way more convenient, but alas, we don't have the crane yet. You guys do a really good job of reminding me about it though. Oh, this is gonna work Jim dandy. You know Jim knows you, something like that. Oh, yeah. Gonna be doing the truck bed ballet here. Well, we still got this thing about a ½ inch from touchdown here. And what I'm doing is, while we still got some wiggle room, because this thing's dangling, it's easy to move and position by myself, I'm gonna get these front bolts started. Maybe the rears, I'm not sure yet. Actually need the bed to go back, just a fuzz. I think that'll do her. Oh yeah. Go in your home, bolt, go in your home. I'm starting with the worst bolt, I think, because we mounted the compressor right where this one goes, so it's a little tougher to get the bolt in there now. Getting this corner started assures that I can't accidentally ram-a-jam the bed into the back of the cab either, which makes me feel a little more comfortable. All right, shove the passenger corner forward. Oh. Can you give me just a fuzz?
A little more?
Yep, a little more. All right, hold that, hold that. All right. I like it. You like it?
I love it.
I love it. Shut this global warming device off. Alrighty. Man, I know the boxes are all still empty and there's no weight on the bed really yet. It's just the weight of the bed on the truck, but we're already sitting so much higher with those airbags on here. Before, I bet you we were probably down around here. I bet you we've come up 3-4 inches maybe on the back end here. That's nice. And you know, we can control that with the airbag remote. I think I have 10 PSI in the bags right now. Oh, I got 15 in them right now. I'm dropping it down to 5 PSI right now, just since we're sitting here empty. So there's what it looks like with 5 PSI. Still sitting up dramatically more than it was before we put those airbags on there. So I'm tickled to death with those. Those are awesome. What do we have left to do here? I guess connect the tail lights back up. Obviously we're missing a bumper. I have the original one, but I think I'd rather build one. I'm thinking like a 10 or 12 inch workbench style bumper where you actually have a piece of like 1/4 or 3/8 plate out back here with a vise mounted on it and everything. That would be a lot nicer trying to work on stuff. Right now I want to focus more or less on getting it ready to go down the road again. At least now with the bed bolted on, I can drive the truck around here, you know, throw some tools in it. I have a pile of tools that's been sitting over on the workbench over there hogging up space, so I'm a little itchy to get those out of my road and into this truck. Oh yeah, starting to feel like we're gonna have a service truck here. So this is not all, but most of the tools that I have allocated for the truck so far. There's still definitely a few things missing. We're gonna have to get a pretty comprehensive socket set. I think just for now, I've got this old Craftsman set here that's used to be in my little garage when I was working out of the little garage there by my house. It served me well for a lot of years, but it's not a complete, really full kit. So we're gonna work on getting a better selection of sockets going for the service truck here, but we got a really nice complete set of gear wrenches, Tecton ratchet wrenches, flex head ratchet wrenches, some Nipex Cobras, carbide scrapers, Allen keys, punch sets, thread chasers. I got a good deal before Christmas there on a bunch of Milwaukee stuff from, what was the web? I can't remember the name of that website, but it was a good website to check out. No affiliation at all, but I think it was ohiopowertool.com, I think. And I got a lot of this stuff. Maybe it was Black Friday even. It was a really good discount, so I splurged and got a fairly complete set for the truck here. A couple different various socket sets, pliers. One of the few things that I'll tell people that's worth it the money for Snap-on stuff is like these kind of pliers. These things are awesome. 2 different sizes of those. Picky about my wrenches, my ratchets, the actual ratchets themselves. These are Snap-on ones that I got used off of eBay or something, pretty good deal. This is a big 1/2 inch ratchet that I bought off of Tecton. We're gonna give it a go. It had good reviews, and I've liked all my Tecton products that I've gotten before. That complete mega socket set that I have in my main box here in the shop is a Tecton set, and I'm a big fan. A lot of this stuff that I bought for this truck actually is Tecton. These vice grips, these are Tecton brand. Maybe they're not the best in the world, but I think they're just fine, especially for being in a truck. And you know, if there was a set that's going to get lost and run over by a machine and pressed into the mud and never see it again, probably going to be the ones in the service truck. So I don't really want to go crazy and spend a fortune on tools that are going to go into this truck. Got a good assortment of nuts and bolts. Those actually came out of this truck anyways, so they're going to go back in. There's a few things that came out of this truck originally that we're going to stick right back in there. Nice Mayhew screwdriver set that I found that I really like because these have a strike through cap on them. So they're basically like a solid rod with steel. So if you have to, you know, beat on your screwdriver like you're not supposed to do, they at least make it a little stronger so you're not going to destroy them. So now we have to shoehorn all that stuff into this truck, and there is plenty of room, but it's one of those things where, man, really got to be thinking ahead and trying to organize this and keep it nice so you can utilize all your space efficiently, because before you know it, you'll be out in a truck like this. In the last video on this truck, you guys saw me go through and actually clean out every single little nook and cranny on this bed. We vacuumed it all out and everything, and I still just found something that I didn't see in here before. There's several brand new bungee cords here. Was there 3, 4 of them? tucked up in there real nice. That I never noticed those before. So I'm just gonna leave them there. Hopefully I remember that there's bungee cords here. Maybe I can write on there with an arrow, bungee cords. I knew this was in here. This is a cool old set of reflectors. So if you break down on the side of the road, got a nice old set of reflectors so you don't get mowed over by a Karen on her cell phone. One thing I want to note right now too, the bed, doesn't maybe look, the whole truck actually looks pretty dusty and dirty, and it is. The whole thing needs a good serious scrub and detail. But the bed looks a little rusty and a little ugh, but it's not as bad as you think probably on camera. There is a little teeny bit of surface rust starting down here, but a lot of this, like that right there, that is like some sort of fluid film or like a waxy film protectant that they sprayed on the bed, trying to preserve it. So I'm glad they did that, because they probably did keep it from rotting away much, much worse. Well, I finally got most of the tools situated here in the boxes, and we're still pretty light here. Definitely need to be getting some more sockets and things like that. But I think I got most of the essential bases covered. Kind of got my oils and chemical fluids and things back here. Smaller hand tools, things that you grab pretty frequently up here. Got some random nut and bolt assortments down there, as well as some grease fitting and new nut and bolt assortments in there. Hairpins, cotter pins. There's a random case down there with all sorts of different electrical connectors in it and stuff. Kind of got pry bars over here, levels. One thing I've noticed about every service truck I've ever really been around is you don't get the luxury of organizing it like you would a big shop, You kind of have to store like-shaped things with other like-shaped things, whether or not those two things may or may not relate to each other. Kind of irrelevant because you're bound more by shape than function. But like I said, it's a start. Organizing something like this is going to be one of those things that you're always kind of reworking and figuring out a better way to do it and tightening it up and making more room and squeezing other things in places you didn't even realize. But in the spirit of rigging this truck up for actual use, I dug an electric fuel pump out of one of the shipping containers that I've been saving for a rainy day, and we're going to install it here on this nice old diesel tank. Man, I think this one was custom made for this box because it fits in there just perfect on both sides, and it's the exact same shade of red, so might have even been a factory built tank to go with the truck box here. Nice big heavy pipe thread cap on here though. It's got a vent tube, and that's where our pump's going to install. So I had a pump, but all of the hoses I had were a little ratty looking, so I went and bought a new 20-foot hose and a new auto shut-off nozzle, because every time I try to use one of the old school nozzles, I end up sticking my knife in the handle and walking away and coming back to a cherry-flavored mess. I didn't even realize it until I started playing around here getting ready to mount the pump. There's actually still old diesel fuel inside of this thing. And I also didn't notice that the bung adapter for this pump is not the same as the bung in the tank. Looks like it's a 2-inch bung in the tank and only 1.5 inches on my pump. So I gotta get a reducing nipple, and I don't know if I have one of those. There's your problem right there. Nipple's too big for your bung. Well, I had to run to the hardware store to get the right fittings here. the right nipple for my bung. All right, she's snug down there. I put a new hose, nozzle, and a swivel on this pump. As soon as I got done putting it on there, I realized I had bought a filter to put on there too, so I'm gonna pop that back off and put the filter in line. There we go. Finally got that hooked up. Okay, well, we got the truck almost buttoned up here. I've been on the fence about this truck as a whole. I think I briefly mentioned in the last video we did on this truck, like, it's a really cool truck. It's a neat piece of history to me since it's so much of a time capsule. But if I'm being honest with myself, it's a smaller, less capable service truck than I really want. I want a 33,000 GVW service truck with like a 5 or 8,000 pound crane on it would be ideal. That way you have taller, deeper boxes. You can fit a lot more tools in it. You can fit a full-size torch setup. You know, you can keep a welder on top of the box, and you know, you basically have this entire workshop just crammed into the bed of a truck, and you're pretty dangerous when you're rigged up like that. Also, I've migrated from small equipment all the way up to big equipment, so when you get into the bigger equipment, you need to have those bigger cranes, the bigger tools, the 1-inch drive sockets, all that stuff. You've got to carry that stuff with you because you end up using it a fairly good bit. This truck, if I loaded every single bit into it that I would need like that, man, even with our air shocks, and those things are awesome. I mean, this thing isn't even squatting yet. But if we did all that, we'd probably just start blowing those shocks out or breaking axles or whatever. Like, it's just not built for that. Like, it's not supposed to do that. So with all that being said, I don't know how much time I want to devote into rigging this truck up to be as good as it could possibly be for my needs. Maybe it's better to leave it as the time capsule. And what I'm really talking about is this back bumper. So a lot of service trucks you see will have a workbench type back bumper. So I was thinking about building a workbench type bumper for this truck, about 12 to 18 inches deep, someplace you can mount a bench vise so you can still have a vise out in the field. And if you do it right, basically it turns into a long storage box so you can stick long pry bars and things like that, sledgehammers, into a side access door on the side of the bumper. Downside of that is it weighs the truck down a whole lot. You can only make that one, say, out of 1/4 inch plate so that it's strong enough to be used as a workbench. You can still do some beating on it, but it's not so heavy that the truck is dragging on the ground. If you get up into that 33,000 GVW truck like I'm talking, it would be nice to have. You could build that bumper out of 1/2 inch plate. You can make it 2.5 feet deep, and now it turns into a big storage box. You can still have a hitch built into it, all that jazz. But that bumper weighs a lot, so you have to have that bigger truck. So that would be really neat to have for this truck. Again, we're circling back to, is it really worth doing all that to a truck that isn't gonna meet my needs even if I do all that? So probably not. I think right now, at least, we're gonna stick the original bumper back on this truck, and I'm gonna run it for a little while, see how I like it. If by some miracle I think it's actually gonna be okay for my needs, then maybe we will do something like that. But for right now, we're just gonna get this thing to where I can start using it, start driving it, because it's been sitting around here for, well, I think going on 2 years now, and I've never driven it down the road other than when I drove it here in the first place. I think that's a crying shame. So let's throw this bumper on here. I have plates for it, I have insurance on it already, and I just need to drive it. So yeah, let's get this bumper thrown on. Not real heavy, but I can't hold it up there and get the bolts in at the same time.
bumpers mounted again. We're about ready to go down the road. Well, I had to fool with the wiring a little bit to get the lights working. And when I say a little bit, I mean a lot of bit. There's nothing more frustrating than watching somebody that doesn't really understand what they're even looking at try and diagnose something. So I spared you guys from watching me try to figure out these lights. It's not a complicated system by any stretch, but there was a lot of patch jobs and splices and just junk wiring down there that happened over the years, I'm sure. And I pretty much cut it all out, started fresh. It's good enough we can take it down the road. I just want to fire it up now, drive it up the road, get the engine good and warm. We're going to come back here, give it an oil change. Well, really, she runs great. It always has, even since we first revived this thing out of the garage where it had been sitting since 1991 or 2, something like that. Even with that old gas in the tank, this old Ford 306 just purrs like a kitten. All right, let's get this oil dropped. How about that slobbery mess of a transmission? This is the first I really noticed how bad that thing is. Holy cow. Looks like the oil's coming from up around the shifter somewhere. Rust proofing. This is one of those drain plugs that's not tight, but it's snug. It's just gonna fight you the entire way out. It's too snug for you to get with your fingers, but not so snug that you actually need the wrench either. Just right there in between. Just enough to cause you grief. Oh well, she's draining. I've said it once about this truck and I'll say it again. Look at all the room for activities under here. You can see straight down through the engine compartment to the oil pan. Name me a vehicle that you can still say that about in 2025. I don't know of any. Look at that. Not only can you see the oil pan, but the oil drops straight down into the oil pan. Only thing it does is dribble a little bit on your drag link. Not a big deal. Perfect. Look at this. They even had the old school lubrifiner filter sitting on the shelf. That's old school cool right there. All right, let's put some fresh oil in this thing. You guys know how much this thing holds? Because I don't. I'm betting it's less than this bucket, though. I get so used to servicing big engines, big diesels, have a lot of oil in them. You know, 5 gallons is pretty standard on a lot of diesel engines, a lot of times more. I start working on these little old gas engines sometimes and forget that and overfill them quite a bit. I might have just done it here, or I might have stopped it right on the money actually. Oh yeah, we're a little over full, but it might be just the amount we need to fill the oil filter and be done.
Oh yeah, we're right dead set on the money for perfect oil level. So I'm a big proponent of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You guys saw this thing runs really good, actually. Really can't complain about it at all. I was going to do plugs, wires, cap, and rotor and all that, but I don't see the merit in doing it. I've kind of made this argument before on actually the last video on this truck. A lot of times, these parts you're getting today from, you know, O'Reilly's, Napa, wherever, I'm not picking on anybody in particular, but the parts just are not as good as they used to make them. So until we have a problem, we're not going to worry about any of that stuff. It looks like it's got an auto light cap on it already. I think it has auto light plugs in it. I am going to go ahead and change the plugs because that's a wear item. And number 6 back here, all the way back in the first video on this truck, we broke it trying to get it out. Or I don't remember what caused us to break it, but bottom line is it's broken. And we just jammed the spark plug boot back on it. And it's been running flawlessly. I don't think it misses at all. But we got all new spark plugs for it, so we're going to put them in. Even these wires are good auto light wires. They're still nice and flexible. They're not cracked up or dried out or anything. So I'm just going to let them go. I don't see them causing any issues right now. If you know how to read spark plugs, that looks pretty good. Maybe a fuzz lean, but it's not burnt. The plugs still look okay, actually. The electrode's not worn in them or anything like that. But like I said, we got new ones. We'll change them out. See? Well, there's one down, 5 more to go. There's the plug as it's been running in the number 6 cylinder there for, well, since I've had it. Still running. It's not all fouled up, so it was definitely sparking. But I have to imagine a fresh new plug is going to help it out a little bit somehow. All right, that's all 6. Let's see how she starts and runs now. Can I get a contact? Oh man, it was smooth before, but it's like a sewing machine now. Still a little cold. Oh yeah. So there's still things left to do under the hood here though. This is actually a fuel filter housing here. This unscrews and there's a cartridge in there that cleans the fuel coming from the tank. Obviously it's not plugged because we wouldn't be running as good as we are if it was. But I did order one of those filters as well as the air cleaner. If you can believe it, nobody had a air cleaner for a 71 F250 in stock locally. And a radiator cap. The seal fell off of it, so I got one of these ordered as well. In the meantime, I want to drain the antifreeze out of this thing, because who knows how old it is or what color it is or what condition it's in. I'm just going to drain it out of the radiator and, as best as I can, out of the engine block itself. We'll top it off with some new stuff, and this thing is going to be ready for the road. I have looked and looked, but I do not see any sort of drain on the block anywhere, so all I can do is drain the radiator. I'm sure somebody's going to tell me where it is, and I just missed it. This usually takes a few minutes. Well, she finished draining. I don't know how well it's really gonna show up on camera, but I'm glad we drained that out. That's some nasty looking coolant. We're gonna put some fresh stuff in there, and I went around and dug around on my parts shelves and I found a new radiator cap, so we can throw this one in the scrap. Oh, should have played basketball. Well, I think I got all the air bubbles out of it now. Now that it's all over the engine compartment, my arm, my face, and the floor. I can't tell you how many times I've done that, and I'm still doing it, so I don't know why I'm not learning this lesson, but that's not the best way to bleed the coolant system. After a quick spritz with the hose, she's looking kind of presentable again. I rinsed all that antifreeze out from underneath the hood there. I don't like that stuff sitting on things. But yeah, I think this thing's about ready for its maiden voyage. There's still some stuff I want to do to it, but it's ready and legal for the road. I still have to mount my license plate. Outside of that, we're ready for the boot, scoot, and boogie. I do like this truck, man. The thing looks good. She's still got her bumps and bruises, you know. It's not a show truck, that's for sure, but it's just classy. But some people are asking me why I keep calling it such a time capsule, and it's because if you really get in here and look at the inside of this truck, it's all just like the guy stopped working one day, pulled it in the garage, shut it off, and walked away for 30 years. The only thing that's laying on this dash that's mine is this is the controller, of course, for our airlift. But there's his daily planner from 1990 sitting on the dash. I mean, some of these really old multi-piece spark plugs, ear protection, got some random seals for something he was probably working on at the time. It's one of those ball bearing grease tools. That thing's actually pretty nice. I can put that in the bed. We need that. The old notepad for William J. Brown Trucking Company in Valencia, PA. I wonder if they're still in business. The phone number has an area code, so we're at least within my lifetime, I think. There's this cool little truck calendar in here. You can see the last month he tore off was July of '91. We're sitting at August of 1991 on that calendar. That's awesome. The CB and everything in here works, turns on. I think the antenna needs connected to it to really use it, but it works. All the cluster gauges seem to work with the exception of the oil pressure gauge. They have an aftermarket one rigged up here. All in all though, just kind of nasty, grimy, dirty. We're gonna do our best to kind of clean that up. Still got his clip-on sunglasses stuck on the visor. Some random numbers scribbled down here in the headliner. That's a service truck thing if I've ever seen one. I think every service truck I've ever been in has like random numbers written up there, like either part numbers or phone numbers they needed to remember, whatever it was. But I've been in several old service trucks and just even newer service trucks, and guys still do that. They just need a quick place to scribble a number down, and that's an easy place, and they're not going to lose it. I don't think I've ever tried the radio.
Pro safety, Gary Rose, take over at 5 East.
Still works just fine.
That's in your face. Back to school days are here.
Presets even still work.
Letter T, the number 2, the letter T.
I've never really dove into the glove box here, but there's lots of paperwork and, you know, random things in here. Looks like the mice got in there a little bit at one point. The old metal tin of Band-Aids. Yeah, that's nostalgia right there. We got some old random pictures in here. Oh, check this out. Score. So I have to assume that this was one of their operations. Like I said, they were in the surface mining business. That looks like might be a D8. That might be Sam's D8, actually. I'm gonna have to dig through that glove box and see if there's any more cool ones in here. And check it out, I started digging in the glove box there, and it's a shame the mice really got to them. Tore a bunch of them up, but there is some cool pictures in here. I'll show you guys. Oh yeah, let me get these all set up here so you guys can see them better. So as a lot of you guys understand, seeing the history of all this machinery and these trucks, and especially, I mean, to me personally, the history of our area is a big reason of why I get so into this stuff. But finding pictures like this to me is really neat. And so if you guys are interested in this stuff, I'll hold these up here for just a second, and you can pause them if you want to check out the picture a little more in depth. I'm going to move through them pretty quick because I know some of you guys could care less, and I get that too. Mice really ate this one up. That looks like an old cable blade D8 pushing a cutback. I'm pretty sure these pictures, at least a lot of these pictures, this one for sure, I think that's actually Sam's D8, Scrappy Industries. He bought his D8 in 977 from the same place that this truck came from. And I'm pretty sure that they're running these machines here, the same with that picture we already looked at, are on the farm where these machines and this truck came from, because they had stripped part of this back in the day. And they cleaned it all up and put it back, of course. But that was all well before I was even born. Yeah, so this is I believe a 1H serial prefix D8. Would have been the first D8s, I think. They're not super common. They have the same dash as a 2U. But I know they had a couple of these. You know, there's the same machine pushing back into the cut there, filling it in. Oh, check that out. I don't know that I ever got it on video, but that is a Manitowoc 3500 high front stripping shovel that they had. And it was still there when we bought this stuff a couple years ago, but they were cleaning up the farm. It was in really, really, really rough condition, and they ended up torching it. It went to the big job in the sky, unfortunately, but that's neat to see a picture of it there actually working. So this looks like they're building some sort of a sediment pond over there. That's Sam's 977H that he bought from them. There's another picture of the same job, it looks like. Cutting a hole through the breastwork of that dam, maybe, I'm not sure. But definitely Sam's 977, because it had that unique cab on it. Yeah, it just looks like they're cutting a slot through a dam. Look at that. Looks like they had a helicopter land there, come to visit. Oh, we're getting into black and whites now. That's, again, Sam's 977. Man, these are really cool. I'm going to have to scan these in. That's really cool. There's a helicopter there with that 977 in the background. That is really neat. Well, that must be the completed pond. I don't know where this job was, because there was no ponds on that property to speak of. And this must have been a different job somewhere. They did do work for other people as well. These ones I thought were the most interesting. I know where that train tunnel is. It's not too far from me. You recognize that truck right there? That's this truck. That is pretty cool. Back before it had a service bed on it, I assumed that they had bought it as a cabin chassis type truck and put the service bed on it right from the factory, but apparently not. Apparently it had a bed for a while. Huh. Very cool. Looks like a big Lima drag line they have there. I don't know if they owned that one or if they were looking at buying it or something. I don't know. I don't remember him telling me anything about a Lima drag line, but I could be wrong. It's the same machine from a different angle. I really like all this old history. That's really cool. I'm glad I found these, and I'm glad the mice didn't completely destroy all of them. Well, not much other than those pictures was in this glove box that was any good. Except for this guy. Check this out. This is a case watch fob advertising their CK580B backhoe. I have a little watch fob collection, so that'll fit nicely right into my collection. I like it. I've never got one. It's still new in the original box before. That's pretty slick. But the rest of this is all just junk. We'll have to shop back that out of there, do a whole interior detail on this thing. But it's good enough to start using.
I can't really say that that's all she wrote, but it's all she wrote for now. There's still a short list of things I would like to do to this truck yet. Namely that bench seat. I would like to get that fixed up, as well as blast and paint the original rims that I have for this truck, and then we'll mount some new rubber on those. Like I said before, it's not a show truck, but it's one of the nicer pieces that I own. I'm pretty proud of it. I'm glad to be its caretaker for the short while here. So you're going to be seeing this truck again very soon. Not only do I want to work on it, I also want to take it to work with me. I got a few projects lined up that I think we're going to be taking this thing on its maiden voyage to. Anyways, I'm going to wrap this one up here today. If you like the video, do me a big favor. Hit that thumbs up button down below the video. Really helps out the channel. Doesn't cost you guys a dime. If you would like to help support the channel in a little more direct fashion, you can head on over to dieselcreek.com. Pick yourself up some sweet swag over there at the store. We've got some new hats released now over at the store. Those are available. I think we have some new shirts available as well. So if you haven't checked out the store in a while, head on over there. We got some new products ready for you. Hey, you see those leaves changing color? It's getting into that time of year. Nights are getting cold. It's hoodie weather, so we've got some really nice, thick, heavy-duty hoodies over the store, too, if you're into that. If you live where it doesn't get cold, well, I'm jealous. Anyways, that's all I got for today. As always, thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you on the next one. Later.